Yo, what is up, my friends? Welcome to another episode of Dostcast. मेरा नाम है Vinamre Kasanaa. If you are new to our YouTube channel, please subscribe because we release new episodes every Tuesday and Friday at 12 p.m. Indian Standard Time. If you're listening to our podcast on an audio platform, make sure you give us 5 stars because we're the best in Bharat. Let's go. आज हम लोग करने वाले हैं Ask Me Anything. 1-2 दिन पहले या 4 दिन पहले 5 दिन पहले मैंने आप लोगों से ना Instagram पे कुछ सवाल लिए थे और Twitter पे. तो ढेर सारे रिस्पॉन्सेज आए हैं कि भाई ये पूछना चाहते हैं वो पूछना चाहते हैं. Figured I just get going. Let's get going. Mimansha.c पूछती हैं, how do you get your mind to do hard things? By getting hard in the morning. Yeah, I don't know. So full disclaimer, ever since I've had my jaw orthotic placed because of TMJ, I haven't been able to work out a single day. It's been over 25 days of not working out. मैं सिर्फ walk करता हूँ. In these days, it's been particularly challenging because honestly, I do not know how I get going without like a decent workout because I worked out pretty much 5 days a week. 6 days if we include climbing as well. एक दिन का rest होता था. So doing the hardest thing in the morning, the workout would pretty much set me right. अब थोड़ा difficult हो गया है, so I have to strive harder to work out in the morning, which is a walk, and then do my things. उसके beyond, I think once you start doing a hard thing, I mean overall, if that's like a performing stand-up in front of lots of people, recording podcasts, asking out a girl or a guy, so जो चीज़ें होती हैं, that only comes to taking a very small step, like what James Clear says in Atomic Habits, like 1% better, and from there you start escalating. But important होता है उसके अंदर momentum ना छोड़ो, because momentum दोनों तरीके से काम करता है. एक positive momentum होता है, एक negative momentum होता है, right? If you are on a downward spiral, which is what people usually say, it means कि तुम्हारा एक इससे पहले बढ़िया spiral था, but एक गलत आदत करी, एक दिन कुछ स्किप करा और उससे एक छोटी सी विंडो आई जहाँ पे मुश्किल था सेम और अच्छी अच्छी हैबिट्स को परस्यू करना और तुमने वहाँ पे यू चूज द इजी वे आउट एंड एज अ रिजल्ट सो नाउ यू स्मोक मोर, यू ड्रिंक मोर, यू डोंट वेक अप ऑन टाइम एंड नाउ यूर ऑन अ डाउनवर्ड स्पाइरल. उसे रिप्लेस करने के लिए यू डू द फर्स्ट हार्ड थिंग एंड देन द सेकंड हार्ड थिंग एंड गो फ्रॉम देयर. It also helps to have mentors and friends जो ये सेम काम कर रहे हैं who just do generally hard things in their life. उससे बहुत ज़्यादा हेल्प मिलती है. Thankfully, I'm fortunate. I have friends like that. I've cut out friends who are just lazy or not or without ambition. Actually, ambition ना होना is not a problem. But being lazy and not doing your duties and your responsibilities and even the things that make you feel alive, like your creative outlets, जो लोग वो करते हैं मैं उनके साथ रहता हूँ, जो लोग नहीं करते उनके साथ नहीं रहता. तो उनके आसपास रह के भी ना, that really helps. I guess a third thing probably that works for me is that I see the reward of doing hard things. I feel stronger, more confident. तो अपने आप को फिजिकल एविडेंस देना होता है ना, जो कि यार मैंने एक मुश्किल चीज़ करी और मुझे बेटर लग रहा है, वो चीज़ मैंने आसान चीज़ करी और मुझे घटिया लग रहा है. उसकी कहीं ना कहीं लर्निंग लिख लो या उसे याद कर लो एंड कीप री-acquiring that feeling no matter how hard it gets. Generally, that's how I go about it. Again, with the workouts out of the equation, it's kind of tough, but I'm making do. I hope that answered your question, Mimansha.c. Another question from Mimansha.c, your top comfort movies. Kind of weird, but I like this movie called Desperado. It was made in 1995 by the director Robert Rodriguez. और उसके अंदर एंटोनियो बैंडरेस एक लवर गिटारिस्ट होता है जो बाहर से बाहर जाके शूट आउट करता है. ऐसे वेस्टर्न टाइप की पिक्चर है. I like that a lot. The other comfort movie probably is Gangs of Wasseypur, which is, I mean, it's not a comfort movie if you think about it. It's just violence and sadness, but I guess that gives me comfort. Wow, Mimansha.c has a lot of good questions, so I'm just going to get that out off the get-go. Top 5 songs on your playlist right now. भाई मेरे पास क्या क्या है मैं अभी बता देता हूँ. I'm going to go and open my Spotify on repeat to show you what I'm listening to. एक second. Number 1 is a song called Halfway There by Soundgarden. Number 2 is Really Brown by The Siege. Number 3 is Nalla Freestyle by Seedhe Mauth and DJ Saag, Gang Gang. Number 4 is That's Life, Frank Sinatra. And number 5 is Bones of Birds by Soundgarden. मेरा ना अभी एक नया फेज चल रहा है जहाँ पे मैं क्रिस कॉर्नेल का बैंड है Soundgarden, उसकी एक एल्बम सुन रहा हूँ again and again. I think it's called Animal Kingdom. Fuck, what is it called? But I really like 90s rock और क्रिस कॉर्नेल की आवाज़ मेरे को बहुत पसंद है. So I'm just revisiting all of that. And I mean, it's a vibe. It's a vibe. Sadly, Cornell committed suicide, but his songs and his lyrics are the right kind of nihilistic, and I enjoy that. The album is called King Animal Deluxe Version. It's really good. अगर आप लोगों ने check out नहीं करी, if you're someone who's interested in rock and roll, you will really like that album. आदित्य राज 222 3 बार 0 पूछते हैं. भाई तुम्हारी डिग्री क्या है और तुम कोठी बंगले वाले हो क्या? मेरी डिग्री एडवर्टाइजिंग के अंदर है और एक माइनर है रिलीजन के अंदर, और हाँ मैं कोठी बंगले वाला हूँ. अनआयरॉनिकली अंडरस्कोर मीन पूछ रहा है, भाई आप जैसे बकचोद कैसे बने प्लीज़ बता दो. यार भाई इसका कोई जवाब नहीं है. ये तो इंसान के अंदर कुदरती आती है, लोगों से आती है, ये प्रवृत्ति होती है. जैसे तुमने देखा है एक 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 शो आता था हातिम करके, उसके अंदर ना एक बार गलती से ना एक राक्षस टाइप पैदा हो जाता है दो भले राजा और रानी को. तो उनके शकुनी टाइप कैरेक्टर को उसका नाम होता है निकुमी. तुम सर्च करोगे ना हातिम निकुमी हातिम दज्जाल आ जाएगा. उसको बोलते हैं इसको दफना के आ जाओ. वो दफनाता नहीं है और उस पर तांत्रिक जादू करके उसे इजाद कर देता है. तो एक राक्षस राजा पैदा होता है दज्जाल नाम का, जो अपने माँ बाप को मार देता है. पर इसमें तो दज्जाल की भी गलती नहीं, उसकी प्रवृत्ति है ऐसी कमीनों वाली बकचोदी वाली. तो आई थिंक मेरी पैदाइशी इसके अंदर भरी हुई है बकचोदी. मैं इसको कुछ आई डोंट थिंक आई कैन जस्टिफाई इट. आई जेन्युइनली डोंट थिंक मैं जस्टिफाई कर सकता हूँ कि यार मैं इस वजह से बकचोद हूँ, या मैंने ये करा, या मेरे साथ ऐसा ट्रॉमा हुआ, या मेरे आसपास मजाकिया लोग थे. ये तो भाई कुदरती होता है. जहाँ पे है वहाँ पे है, जहाँ पे नौ भाई वहाँ पे नौ. यूएस सिस्टम भाई, यूएस. KRIX_चौधरी पूछते हैं आप शकलपुरा कब आओगे? इनवाइट नितिन चंदीला. शकलपुरा एक्चुअली मेरा पेटर्नल विलेज है जहाँ पे मैं अक्सर ज़्यादा रहता हूँ. व्हेनेवर आई एम देयर आई विल पोस्ट अ स्टोरी. आई एम नॉट श्योर, आई हैड नो आइडिया कि दोस्तकास्ट के लोग वहाँ पे भी हैं, पर अगर होंगे तो आई वुड लव टू मीट देम. इट्स इन यूपी, इट्स नियर गाजियाबाद. क्या बोलूँ यार. रोनित पूछते हैं सेक्स कब मिलेगा मुझे? यार भाई क्या बोलूँ मैं. विदिशा गोयल आस्क्स हाउ आर यू रियली फीलिंग? ओ वाओ, ये ऐसी वाली बात है जिसके अंदर वन हैज़ टू गेट इन टच विद देयर फीलिंग्स एंड व्हाट नॉट. आई गेस आई एम फीलिंग फाइन. आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू गेट बैक टू वर्क. मेरे को दिवाली की इतनी लंबी छुट्टियाँ पसंद नहीं आई हैं बिकॉज पार्टी ज़्यादा होती है, काम कम होता है. और इवन दो आई हैव लाइक अ डिसेंट वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस दैट आई हैव कल्टिवेटेड माई सेल्फ, आई जेन्युइनली बिलीव दैट एक consistent creative outlet, and I don't call podcasting too creative to be honest, because it's a conversation. I mean it's fine. वो होना ना really keeps me at ease. फिर जिंदगी में कुछ भी चल रहा हो. So as of today, because I read a lot today, I was actually reading this book called How to Subvert a Democracy Inside India's Deep State by Josie Joseph, and proceeding there, I had a long conversation with someone about some of the things that our Prime Minister has been involved in his earlier past. And वो बातें और वो किताब पढ़ के ना I felt alive. I mean, I was like going through a little low because I woke up late and मेरा मन नहीं कर रहा था कुछ खाने पीने का, because I'm also on a liquid diet because of this TMJ issue. That idea of that and compiling my newsletter today, which is a fantastic one, which is going to come out on Thursday, October 27th. इन सब चीज़ों को करके ना I felt at ease. The other thing that makes me feel okay, how am I feeling? Well, the other thing that makes me feel better is definitely not doing anything. अगर मैं अपना फ़ोन छोड़ के सिर्फ बैठ जाता हूँ, that really puts me at ease. So as of now, I'm doing good, Vidisha. Thank you for asking. प्रथम रस्तोगी _ पूछते हैं सातिर वाले चैनल का क्या सोचा है? भाई सातिर वाले चैनल का यूँ सोचा भाई, वहाँ पे लगाम लगा रखी या टाइम पे, अभी का सिस्टम ना करेंगे हम. Intello _calls response is what are your views on Fyodor Dostoevsky and his literary works? आई थिंक ये बात पीटरसन ने बोली थी कि दोस्तोयेव्स्की पहला रशिया का लिटरेरी साइकोलॉजिस्ट था जो फिक्शन के माध्यम से ह्यूमन साइकी के नास्टी एलिमेंट्स मोस्टली की तरफ रिफ्लेक्शन करने की कोशिश करता था थ्रू हिज फैट बुक्स. द बेस्ट वर्क दैट आई रेड फ्रॉम हिम इज क्राइम एंड पनिशमेंट, बिकॉज दैट बुक रियली डिड अ नंबर ऑन मी. इट गॉट मी थिंकिंग अबाउट कि इंसान कितना पागल हो सकता है गिल्ट के मारे, और यदि उसे मर्डर करना होता है तो वो कहाँ तक जा सकता है, और वो मर्डर के जो रीजंस भी होते हैं वो किस तरह से आते हैं. व्हाट काइंड ऑफ स्ट्रेंज एबनॉर्मल एक फील्ड होता है साइकोलॉजी में, एबनॉर्मल साइकोलॉजी. किस तरह की एबनॉर्मल साइकोलॉजी लगती है इंसान को पागल करने में इतना कि वो मर्डर करना ज़रूरी समझता है, और फिर उसे इतनी गिल्ट हो जाती है कि वो सोचता है कि यार अब टाइम आ गया है, पुलिस को खुद ही अपने आप को अरेस्ट दे देता हूँ मैं. एंड देन इन द एंड ही फाइंड्स लव एंड इज रिडीम्ड. इट्स अ क्रेजी स्टोरी. एंड आई स्वेयर व्हेन यू रीड दोस्तोयेव्स्की, अगर उसके कैरेक्टर को दुनिया से नफरत हो रही होती है ना, यू फील दैट ऑन द इनसाइड. यू ऑल्सो हेट द वर्ल्ड. I'm assuming if people read a lot of really violent literature, if that makes them violent, agar koi correlation hai, I'm not sure. But it certainly makes you think. It certainly makes you less naive about the world. एक fairy tale पढ़ लो किसी चीज़ की, Little Prince type की, जहाँ पे एक lesson है, Winnie the Pooh पढ़ लो, ठीक है. But you're not really exposed to evil the way you are exposed to evil and malice and all the bad adjectives that we know for our emotions until you read Dostoevsky. So that's my response. He's a fantastic writer. एक बड़ा मुद्दा ये आता है लोगों के बीच में यार कि कौन सी ट्रांसलेशन खरीदें. There's a lot of debates on that. If you search like a Reddit thread, which is the best translation, you usually find an answer. Because बहुत सारे publishing houses ने पैसे कमाने के लिए ना अपनी translation बना रखी हैं, लेकिन the original Russian to English translation उनमें से एक ही है that is good. For all the books, I think. That you can check out on Reddit. It's Raghuraj asks, bring Paradox on the podcast. Bro, 100% मेरे को Paradox, MC Square दोनों लेके आने हैं, because मैंने Paradox को पहले सुना था Dank Rishu, अर्पित, भप्पा और कीत के गाने के अंदर, जगह दो के अंदर उसका verse. And then, I mean, those guys are blowing up MTV Hustle and like, fuck. MC Square is from Faridabad, which is great. So I think as soon as the show is done, I'm going to get them on. I'm going to try my best to get them on. Arshita CH1 asks, what is love to you? Keda question hai yaar. Whoever I can give to without feeling guilty or suspicious about not receiving it back, that is a close approximation of how I express my love. However, if I just had to think about love, I would probably use like a statement where like एक बड़ी weird चीज़ हुई. I mean, I can talk about romantic love और उस तरह के loves वगैरह, या फिर or like the love you feel for a partner, or the love you feel with someone, for someone in the brief moment that you orgasm, or the love you feel for someone that you have a fascination with, even like been involved physically. और वो जो हल्का सा डांस होता है, which is very free and pure, I think that is close. But I discovered like a very strange way of expressing my love recently. When I was with a friend, and usually ना बंदों में ऐसा बड़ा सीन होता है कि पहले होता था, I mean you see it in working class India also, कि लोग हाथ पकड़ के चलते हैं सड़कों पे. And that is like compassion. People would not call it love, but I would call it love. And I was just lying on the grass and मेरा दोस्त ऐसे बैठा हुआ था आलती पालती मार के, और मैं बस उसकी हल्का सा मैंने सर अपना उसकी जैसे एक जांग पे रख के मैं लेट गया, यू नो ऐसे, एंड ही लेट मी, एंड उसने ऐसे ऑकवर्ड वो नहीं करा कि क्या भाई गे है क्या, कि लेट रहा है मेरे पैरों पे. एंड दैट वाज अ मोमेंट, दैट वाज अ गुड मोमेंट, दैट वाज अ मोमेंट वेयर ऑकवर्डली आफ्टर मैनी ईयर्स ऑफ फ्रेंडशिप हम उस जगह पे आए हैं वेयर आई कैन डू दैट विदाउट सेइंग ब्रो नो होमो, ये सब बकचोदी करने के. एंड सो इट्स ऑल्सो दिस काइंड ऑफ unarticulated understanding of togetherness. I'm using words now literally because I'm not sure myself. It's a tricky question. Then love is seeing your parents in public and seeing them manifest their personalities outside of their roles. लव ये भी होता है कि आपकी माँ आपके बाप आपके लिए कोई छोटी सी केयर वाली चीज़ करते हैं, कुछ रख देना, खाना बना के रख देना, एक चीज़ आपके कहने से पहले आपकी नीड मेट कर लेना. Then I think love, I mean dude, I fall in love so many times with so many women when I just look them in the eyes sometimes. I mean, I guess that is love. It's very tricky. Another definition of love that I come up with is whenever my eyes tear up at seeing my family, when I think about them, but it's because मैं उन्हें इतना प्यार करता हूँ कि वो burst out होने की कोशिश कर रहा होता है मेरे अंदर से, and so I have to cry to let that feeling out. I think that is love. Then there's the kind of love you feel for like a young man that you mentor, and you see the love that he has for you in his eyes, and so you both look at each other lovingly. Then I guess there's a feeling of love that you have when in 4 or 5 months after falling off the right path कुछ भी हो सकता है, you kind of do a gentle hug to yourself and act in what people call self-compassion. I think that is love. I don't know. Honestly, it's such a tricky question. I've just tried to मैंने बहुत सारी डेफिनेशंस यूज़ करने की कोशिश करी टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट आई थिंक अबाउट इट, बट आई वुड रियली रियली हैव टू थिंक अबाउट इट, एंड आई डोंट थिंक एक्चुअली रिमेंबर. मैं एक बार प्रखर कॉलेज गया हुआ था कोलंबिया के अंदर, और वहाँ पे ना इनका एक ग्रुप था स्टोआ करके, स्टोआ कोलिक्वा. वहाँ पे लोग लव पे डिस्कशन कर रहे थे, तो आई जस्ट सैट इन ऑन दैट एंड बहुत सारी बातें कर रहे थे कि फिलियल लव ये होता है, इरोस वाला लव ये होता है, बायोलॉजिकल अंडरपिनिंग्स देख रहे थे लव की, न्यूरोलॉजी ऑफ लव देख रहे थे, सब चीज़ें कर रहे थे. आई जस्ट वेंट टू Parveer, the leader of the group at that time, and I said, you know what, bro, we shouldn't talk about love without experiencing it. I think you cannot talk about love, you can just experience it. And उस पर फिर डिबेट आया लोगों का कि नहीं फिर लैंग्वेज का फ़ायदा क्या, which is a valid point, I completely get it, but I think when you feel love, when you feel love, you remember the stale memory of that love and you write a poem or you talk to people about it. But the love is gone. It's just an afterthought of the love. It's just an afterglow of that love. फिर क्या रहता है? It's just like this craving, this fascination with what was felt. But जो था वो तो महसूस ही किया गया. उसका बयान नहीं कर सकते. Anyway, that's all I have for you. That's all I can think of for now within this constraint. Opioids Katela's response is a very interesting one. She asks, do you think hair salons are dungeons of capitalism sucking bills off our esteem? Look, I do not know for women, but I know for sure कि बहुत सारी औरतें बहुत सारे treatments के लिए, छोटी छोटी चीज़ों के लिए salons जाती हैं. I do think that for the ones in us who can afford a little bit of luxury in salons, they do cost a fuck ton, bro. मतलब like exorbitant. 1,000 रुपए का haircut is never something I thought I would ever see in my life. I remember as a kid I would still go for a 50 or 100 rupee haircut. But honestly, वो quality में फ़र्क आ गया, so there's lots of people who would do it. I don't know. That self-esteem angle is probably more valid for women. Unless like a man is balding, like then he would like pay a lot for a hair transplant. But वो hair transplant salon में नहीं होता. That happens at a cosmetologist usually, or a dermatologist. So I don't know. I haven't dove deep into the culture of women feeling objectified and underwhelmed at salons. मैंने वो करा नहीं है, so I don't know for sure. Nusrat_Ali_0_8 asks, what rock albums would you recommend for a beginner? I don't know what you mean by beginner. You're a music listener, I'm sure you listen to other music, तो ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. I can tell you some of my favorite ones. Definitely listen to The Best of Eagles, because that's the first album I started with. King Animal is the one that I recommended earlier in the podcast. That is really good. Pink Floyd ki Metal is brilliant. If you like some politically charged work, I think I would recommend Animals. Post-war Dream bhi Pink Floyd ki. You would also really enjoy Morrison Hotel by Jim Morrison. Hit or miss hai, because some rock bands have great singles, but they have horrible albums. Voyage 34 by Porcupine Tree is a very strange album that talks about an LSD experience. Axis Bold as Love by Jimi Hendrix is a really good one. I really like the Emotional Attachar. I really like the Dave D soundtrack also, even though proper rock album नहीं, इसमें बहुत सारे rock के songs हैं, लेकिन I also think the Rock On album is phenomenal. That is really great, worth checking out. Electric Music for the Mind and Body. This is by Country Joe and the Fish. Then music, this album on YouTube तो मुझे मिलेगी, Acid Music for Acid People. Coldplay की Parachutes is excellent. So many. I think I've given you enough to start with. इनमें से एक के भी rabbit hole में जाओगे, you'll figure like entire tunnels. Oh, Queen's Live at Wembley is really good. Queen's Live Aid album, जिसके सारे वो live performances हैं, that is really good. Food Over Wisdom asks, भाई आप सही में पैसे कमाते हो? Big, by the way, huge fan of those guys. Thank you so much. And जवाब है हाँ, करोड़ों. 50 Shades of Aryan asks, हर फील्ड में इतनी अच्छी नॉलेज कहाँ से आई? MTV मतलब oh my god, मतलब लिखा है, मतलब गेस्ट के हर टॉपिक पे आपकी एक स्टोरी ज़रूर होती है. यार ऐसी बात नहीं है, मैं हर पे स्टोरी नहीं इंट्यूटिवली ला पाता, नॉट डू आई ट्राई. Dude, I think honestly it's about living, I've always maintained this, it's about living an interesting private life. The more things you do outside the camera that are interesting, immersive, non-content, like the more stories you have. आप जितने तरह के नए लोगों से मिलते हो, उतनी कहानियाँ होती हैं आपके पास. Allowing yourself to live your life off camera is very important, which I think a lot of my content creator colleagues don't do successfully. They just live on the internet, which is fine, but you realize कि फिर real life में इतना कुछ नहीं चल रहा होता, और real life के अंदर like internet to bas, the moment you shut off the screen that you're watching this on, the moment I shut off these cameras, life begins, right? That is where real life is, physical life, tangible life. Things you can hold, touch, see, feel, what's lick, I fucking don't know. That is where like the essence of life comes from. So every now and then I try to make sure that I do all my podcasts, then I either take a trip, do an interesting experience, go to an event, kuch bhi karte raho, do a small course, do research on something to keep your mind fresh, full of ideas. Also fuck around with friends. I.Shubham.Padal asks, happy to see your growth. Been here since Shatir Kutta, keep grinding. Gang. Let's go, bro. Thank you so much. Let's go. Ashita CH1 asks, will you marry me? In 2079, we will think about it. But thank you so much. Bisht Nitin 02 पूछते हैं, Ami Ganatra कब आ रही हैं फिर से? Dude, as soon as Ami comes out with a new book, I'm having her on. Ami से बात करके मजे आ जाते हैं. All I did for the Ramayana podcast is just sit down in a cafe, read the book within 3.5 hours, 3 hours, and just go in and ask my honest questions. And Ami, being the brilliantly articulate scholar that she is, responded. And then it blew up. It really, really blew up. So, I mean, I would love to have her on as soon as she has a new book out, which should be soon. I think the next year. Ami ka output बहुत तेजी से आता रहता है. I mean, I remember कि Mahabharata Unraveled only came out in the lockdown, and then ab isi baar hi Ramayana Unraveled bhi aa gayi. So she's quick. So I have a question from Yo Man After All on Twitter that says, what would you suggest to someone? Says, what would you suggest to someone trying to build a journaling and good reading habit? What kind of student were you in school? Lastly, can you do more podcasts with indie music artists like Kavya Trehan and Prabdeep Music? P.S. You're hands down the best podcast host I've seen. Thank you so much, Yo Man After All. Really appreciate it. With Kavya and Pradeep, for sure, I reached out in the past to Pradeep. Hopefully, I'll get an opportunity to speak with him again at Simba Pro, which is happening on November 19th and 20th in Delhi, where he's performing. So hopefully, wahan pe mauka mil jaye. As far as school is concerned, I got good marks till a certain grade. After that, I stopped caring, and I just started pursuing my own projects, 11th, 12th ke andar. And I didn't have problems studying except for math, where I sucked. Jahan pe ek self-fulfilling prophecy ban gayi ki yaar maths bura hai, I suck at math. Fir uske baad it would just multiply and snowball, and I kept getting worse at math. As far as your question, ka first part, what would you suggest to someone trying to build a journaling and good reading habits? Simple si baat hai. I mentioned it in my course on skill91.com, but I'll mention it again. क्या करना है, बड़ी सिंपल सी चीज़ है. जहाँ पे भी बैठते हो, if you live in a house, I'm sure you live in a house or you live in a room, you want to place one physical book in the bathroom, one physical book on your desk, one by your bed, right? One in the sofa, one in the kitchen, one in your bag. Point ये कि हमें एक तरह का boring या repetitive या फिर non-useful behavior को, हमें useless behavior को हमें हटाना है. मान लो scrolling है और उसे रिप्लेस करना है कि इमीडिएटली अवेलेबल एनवायरनमेंट में रखी हुई किताब से. ठीक है, जब हम किताब लेंगे तो हमें किताब को ऐसे नहीं सोचना कि पूरी किताब पढ़नी है. हमें जहाँ तक पढ़ना है ना, जहाँ तक इंटरेस्ट है, बोर होगा, नींद आई, छोड़ दो, बंद कर दो. देयर इज़ नो लॉ और कंस्ट्रेंट अबाउट हाउ यू शुड रीड अ बुक. यू शुड रीड फ्रॉम द मिडल इफ यू वांट, इवन अ फिक्शन बुक इफ यू वांट. तुम एंड में पढ़ो, ठीक है, हो सकता है 4 पेजेस एक साथ पढ़ो, फिर बाद में पढ़ो. कोई रूल नहीं है. द मोमेंट यू मेक इट अ टास्क इज द मोमेंट योर रीडिंग हैबिट गोज टू डाई. एंड यू वांट टू मेक इट एज ईजी फॉर योर सेल्फ टू हैव अ रीडिंग हैबिट. दैट ओनली हैपन्स अगर तुम्हारे पूरे एनवायरमेंट में किताबें फैली हुई हैं, राइट? देन नेचुरली यू गोना स्टार्ट ग्लांसिंग टू द पेजेस. स्किम करना भी ओके, ऊपर से पढ़ना भी फाइन है, राइट? आवर ऑब्जेक्टिव इजंट टू बी लाइक दिस क्रेजी CEO जो साल में 52 किताबें पढ़ता है. दैट इज नॉट व्हाट आवर ऑब्जेक्टिव इज. आवर ऑब्जेक्टिव इज टू सिंपली गेट सम रीडिंग इन with minimal friction possible, with books that are already in an environment. अगर तुम्हें Kindle पढ़ना पसंद है, you can do a Kindle, right? The other way to do it, if you don't like physical books at all, is to curate your content in a way so that तुम्हारे पास Twitter threads आ रही हैं, essays आ रहे हैं, articles आ रहे हैं, and तुम उन्हें एक regimented time में 15 मिनट के लिए पढ़ते हो, glance करते हो. All that is reading. If you don't even like that, read the fucking newspaper. Newspaper के अंदर इतना तहलका होता है, मजा आ जाता है पढ़ के. But I think the biggest thing is you have to have a platform constraint, like where you will read this, online या physical किताब के अंदर या दोनों, whatever. You have to have like environmental constraint कि environment में कहाँ किताबें रखें. अगर तुम्हारे को रीडिंग हैबिट बनानी है और तुम्हारी किताब है ही नहीं तुम्हारे पास, वो किसी बुक शेल्फ में रखी हुई है सीढ़ियों के नीचे जो inaccessible है, you're never going to do that. The best way to build a habit is to have the things around you, is to have a frictionless setup, right? I remember मेरे को one of my friends gave me really good advice कि पहले I used to have a laptop, फिर लैपटॉप के अंदर मैं एक इंटरफेस कनेक्ट करता था, फिर कैमरा ऑन करता था, फिर सेटअप करता था, फिर मैं रिकॉर्ड करता था कुछ on my other channel. It would take a lot of time. And the effort almost made me didn't want not record. अब मेरे रूम के अंदर कैमरा लगे रहते हैं, मैं सिर्फ 2 स्विच ऑन करता हूँ and voila, I'm set. That's what I do. So make recording as effortless as possible. ठीक है? So you want to make reading as effortless as possible. You want to place books in your environment. You don't want to think कि मैं कितनी किताबें पढ़ रहा हूँ या पढ़ रही हूँ, कितने पेजेस पढ़ रहा हूँ या पढ़ रही हूँ, कितने घंटे पढ़ रहा हूँ या पढ़ रही हूँ, कौन से सब्जेक्ट की किताब पढ़ रहा हूँ या पढ़ रही हूँ. Whatever makes sense to you, even if it's a fucking comic. The intent is to just go through it. Just glance through it. हमें ये भी नहीं मैं किताब खत्म करनी है. Do that and I'm sure you will have no problem maintaining a reading habit. Same goes for journaling as well. Same logic. Exact same logic. Does sharing most of your thoughts on the internet makes your soul feel naked in any way? How prevalent is imposter syndrome among famous individuals? I've noticed in your podcast you don't actively disagree with the guests. Why is that so? Okay. एक एक करके सारे मुद्दों का जवाब देते हैं. Number 1, as far as sharing my thoughts on the internet is concerned, I do not feel naked because I reveal only what is to be revealed. मैं अपनी सारी बातें नहीं बताता हूँ, obviously because I have a private life and I have a public life. So no, I don't feel like that. The second thing is whenever I feel like I am speaking too much or feeling cringe, all of that, I just know that it's life. And इतने घंटे में अगर बात करूँगा, I'm bound to say something stupid and I say something stupid almost all the time. I've said multiple stupid things in this podcast. And so I just let it be. I do not feel naked because I'm also comfortable with sharing my thoughts on the internet. I've been doing this since in 2018 in one way or the other. Imposter syndrome among famous लोग, मैं ऐसा कोई famous इंसान नहीं हूँ. I won't be able to say. But I will say I've been having difficulties being as raw and unhinged as I first was when I had an audience. अब मैं अपने आप ही मन में एक filter लगाना शुरू कर देता हूँ. It's like that line that a G. Tile said in an interview once. Self-censorship is tremendously worrying. तो मैं अपने आप को आजकल सेल्फ सेंसरशिप करनी शुरू कर दी है. किसी ने मेरे को बोला नहीं है कि अब इतने सब्सक्राइबर हो गए तो अब बिहेव करो, मैं खुद ही करना शुरू कर दिया है. Now I'm actively finding ways to mitigate that, to find a solution to becoming unhinged again. And I'm not closer yet, but that's probably like the only kind of imposter syndrome that I suffer from. But I had tons of it when I was starting my podcast. Dude, बहुत ज़्यादा कि मैं क्या कर रहा हूँ, क्या चूतियापंती, कोई सुनेगा भी क्या बकचोदी है. ये तो पार्ट एंड पार्सल है. जो भी बंदा बोलता है ना मेरे को होता नहीं, वो झूठ कह रहा है, सबको होता है. Okay, the last thing you asked is that I don't disagree with my guests. Why is that so? यार, to be honest, I do. It's just that कि अगर I don't believe in a heated debate. I'd much rather listen to what they have to say, allow myself to see what they really have to say, to think about it critically in that moment and then move on. मैं वहाँ पे इसलिए debate नहीं करना चाहता because most of the times, I get a lot of experts on. ठीक है? And I read as much as I can about the field that they're interested in. I borrow anecdotes from my own life. I study their work if they have that out in the public. पर उसके beyond मैं expert नहीं हूँ. मैं जो जानता हूँ मैं उस perspective के basis पे बात करता हूँ. अगर मेरे को knowledge, for example, कोई अभिजीत अयर मित्रा का example लेते हैं. He's a figure of the right. I do not know enough about the left to competently give an argument back to him कि नहीं यार right के अंदर ये problems है. मेरे को पता है problems हैं, मैं point भी कर सकता roughly. But not in the way that is most ideal for the kind of podcast I want to do. इसी वजह से I'm keeping at it. This is a work in progress. Each episode, it's an iteration of being a better conversationalist. And I'm trying my best. I'm reading as much as I can. I'm meeting other people on not only political spectrums, but from all fields so that I have my knowledge more intact. ताकि मैं और वो कर पाऊँ. Although I will say one incident where I think I was pretty public with my disagreement is when I had Puneet Superstar on और वो कह रहा था डिप्रेशन के बारे में किसी को बताओ और दवाई मत लो. मैंने कहा यार नहीं, क्लियर clinical literature indicate करता है कि you should talk about it and you should take medication if you're like screwed. That is what I disagreed and like I stopped him. But was my disagreement hard? कि नहीं पुनीत भाई आप गलत कह रहे हो, आप चूती हो. नहीं, it's like नहीं. I was like नहीं यार ऐसा नहीं है, आप समझो इस बात को. Because look, at the same time, you have a guest who spend their time, their money, they've traveled all this way to be here. I don't want to insult them in any way, but I want to politely disagree where I think a disagreement matters. अभी तक तो ऐसा नहीं हुआ है कि मेरे को लगा कि यार मैंने किस बेवकूफ़ को बुला लिया. That hasn't happened ever. If that happens, I will disagree, for sure. But I'm also very good at filtering my guests. Warrior_Levi asks, what would you do if your YouTube shorts didn't do well during initial days of Dostcast? If they didn't do well, I would probably keep my writing career going and do the podcast on the side. And then I would figure out other things. I don't know. It's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. Saihan P1 asks, are you going to upload vlogs anytime soon? Because your Instagram tells me you have a lot cooking. मैं पहले अपने चैनल पे vlogs बनाता था, but I found that सारा मज़ा जो चीज़ पर्दे में उसे पर्दे में रखने में है. ज़िंदगी का जो रस है ना, उसे चूसने का आनंद है प्राइवेट, अकेले, एकांत में, मित्रों के साथ, दोस्तों के साथ, ठीक है, परिवार के साथ, अपने पार्टनर्स के साथ, खूबसूरत औरतों के साथ और सभा के साथ. हर चीज़ इंटरनेट पर डाल दो कि मज़ा क्या है, रहेगा जाएगा ज़िंदगी के अंदर. आई डोंट बिलीव इन 24/7 ब्रॉडकास्ट. ये पॉडकास्ट आए यानी देखिए, मौज लीजिए. इसके बियॉन्ड आई डोंट थिंक मेरे को व्लॉग्स डालने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि चैनल ग्रो करना है, स्केल करना है. सम पीपल लाइक व्लॉग्स. आई लव वॉचिंग अदर पीपल्स व्लॉग्स, बट आई वुड नेवर से कि यार हम ये कर रहे हैं, वो कर रहे हैं, ऐसा कर रहे हैं. एक्चुअली नेवर से नेवर. बट यार राइट नाउ आई डोंट थिंक अबाउट कि मेरे को व्लॉग्स बनाने की ज़रूरत है, क्योंकि मेरे को बहुत, आई रियली वैल्यू माई प्राइवेट लाइफ. आई रियली इन्जॉय life off camera, and it's always been like that, and I never want to change it. TWJAS पूछते हैं, what was the initial idea when you started Dostcast, and has it changed over time and the success? When I started Dostcast, I just wanted to have conversations in Hindi. Right now, it's the main pillar of my business, and it's a show where I have conversations twice a week. So I don't have like a show. हफ्ते में 2 बार conversations करनी no matter what. That's it. That's what I think about. Nothing else. Subs, views, ये तो secondary metrics है जो important है for sure, but not as important as the simple tagline, 2 episodes a week, Tuesday and Friday, 12 p.m. Indian Standard Time. That's why I say in the intro as well, like I'm consistent throughout. मेरा बस यही motto है. Ryan Singh Verma asks, will the writing content return? Yes, it will, but on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn. ठीक है, so stay tuned for that. Satvik IVTAS asks, any plans to do a series on mythology with experts? कर तो रहा है आपका बियर बाइसेप्स यार, हर रोज़ बता रहा है कि हिंदू को अब ये करना चाहिए, वो करना चाहिए. आई थिंक देयर इज प्लेनी ऑन दैट. देयर इज अ रियल रिसर्चेंस इन Indian mythology on YouTube that people like. I only pursue the topics in mythology that I like as and when they arrive, and if I have an interesting guest query. The mythology that I'd be really interested in pursuing is probably Greek mythology or Egyptian mythology. उसमें मज़े आएंगे because, or like, dude, doing a series on God of War, मज़े आ जाएंगे. His username is GoCoronaGo. Web3 में कब घुसना है? I'm surveying it on the side. Right now I'm too involved in Dostcast to fully give it the time it needs. But yeah, I have plenty of friends who are doing it. So shortly. Okay, Dis_Enchanted asks, not putting you down, but want to know generally, what do you want to do in the future with all the knowledge you've amassed? Intellectual people can see through thought leaders who are simply the last book article they read. How will you stand out and grow your tribe? I don't think about growing my tribe as far as staying intellectually sharp. It just has to be reading, writing, meeting people, having experiences. That's it. Even if it's the last book that I've read or someone else has read, it's no problem. Because that's the only way. It's simply impossible to exist and pursue purely intellectual endeavors at this stage of my life, where building a business and building a way to fully express my creative calling, they take bigger priorities than being fully मतलब पूरी तरह से intellectual pursuit को pursue करना. I think that happens as a consequence also. I think practice is probably the best sharpener of your mind. Practice of any one skill again and again and again. So I don't know. I think there is nothing wrong with talking about the last book that you read. It's totally okay to be as fresh as the last book you read. It's totally fine with that. I know इसको लोग बोलते हैं recency bias होता है कि आपको जो recent knowledge आप उसी को आगे जाके चेप देते हो. But I don't see how else. Like what is... Perhaps like a thematic study of several different topics is due. But maybe at a later point in my life. मैं अगर इसको शुरू कर दूँगा ना यार, Dostcast की फैम को कैसे बढ़ाना है, then those things involve like like the way entrepreneurs scale things, not the way intellectuals scale things. Because intellectuals don't scale things. Their thinking goes at scale. But scaling a community is very different than khud intellectually sharp hona. So that's my response. Probably take this last question by Beer Brunt, which is, how's your mental health after blow up of Dostcast into mainstream? I do not think Dostcast is a mainstream podcast yet. Initial कुछ days में मुश्किल था because मैं बाहर जाता था दिल्ली में और लोग मेरे को पहचानना शुरू कर रहे थे and they would come up and say hi to me. And I was pretending like, oh my god, कितनी problem है. Oh, sorry. यारा. ऐसी मैं complaints कर रहा था. Then I got used to it. And now people come up and say hi to me and I say hi back and I meet them. And I understand that the podcast does relatively well on some days and relatively not well on most days, on some days as well. But yeah, it's just life. I don't think about it too much. I mean, it's kind of hard also because my family and friends, they always mention Dostcast when they meet me. So I'm reminded of what I do for work all the time. But like anyone else who sees some online numbers, I got used to it. And now it is it. हाँ, मैं अपने को remind करता हूँ कि देख, अगर तू किसी room में जा रहा है, no one knows you, that's a good thing. Because you should never get used to people coming and saying hi to you. Because one day they won't. And then you're going to be sad. So. Anyway, I think यार बहुत बातें कर ली. आज तो बहुत serious बातें कर ली. एक भी बकचोदी वाली बात करी नहीं. लगता है उम्र हो रही है. I don't fucking know. I don't know, something is happening. But anyway, thank you for tuning into Dostcast till this long. If you are any more questions, हम लोग November में will do another Q&A of sorts. It's been fun. Don't forget to see me at Simba Pro on 19th to 20th November. I'm going to be there. Don't forget to subscribe to my newsletter, which is fucking awesome, Dark Arts. And अगर आपने अभी तक भी सब्सक्राइब नहीं करा दोस्तों, ज्ञान चोट के मुंह में दर्द हो गया तो दोस्तों सब्सक्राइब करो दोस्तकास्ट पे. करो यार, सब्सक्राइब करो प्लीज. अभी जाके सब्सक्राइब करो, फैमिली से कराओ, फ्रेंड्स से कराओ. You know what to do, ठीक है? Alright, Vinamre out. See you next Tuesday or Friday. Bye-bye. Let's go.